Welcome everyone to our Packers News Day 1 Draft Live Chat. Alongside Ryan Wood, I am Olivia Reiner. Today, all eyes have been on the Packers' future. However, not just related to the draft. It's also related to Aaron Rodgers' future at quarterback here in Green Bay. We'll get into all the details of today's events surrounding Rodgers, plus we'll also look at the Packers' first selection in this year's draft. Before we get into that, as always, you know the drill. You can be a part of our conversation. If you're on Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube, leave us a question down in the chat. Ryan and I want to hear from you. We'll get to some of your thoughts toward the end of our conversation today. Aaron Rodgers is so disgruntled with the Packers currently that he has told some members of the organization he is not interested in returning to the team in 2021. ESPN reported it earlier today, and Packers News confirmed it. General Manager Brian Gutekunst, President Mark Murphy, and head coach Matt LaFleur have all traveled out west to visit with Rodgers at some point this offseason, according to various reports. How on earth, Ryan, did we get here?
A bevy of misunderstandings. I thought that one of the biggest things Brian Gutekunst said tonight was an admission that he has regrets from last year, and that he thought in hindsight, looking at where things are now, he could have been better with communication. And he wasn't asked this specifically, but it doesn't take much to think that maybe he is looking back in hindsight and realizing he might have wanted to give Aaron Rodgers a heads up that, hey, by the way, we're drafting your potential replacement at quarterback in the first round, instead of having the franchise, the MVP, learn that on television, which is what he did, and then poured himself some scotch. That's one way that maybe things could have smoothed over. Overall, I thought Brian Gutekunst was pitching Aaron Rodgers to come back to the Packers. And I think that the past few Zoom calls have been direct conversations, one-way conversations with Aaron Rodgers publicly about, hey, this is where and tonight it really turned to, this is a really great team, really great organization. They're very committed to him. Brian Gutekunst made it very clear. I asked him for the second time this offseason. The first time was on February 1st. Tonight it's the second time I asked Brian Gutekunst, is there any scenario in which you can see trading Aaron Rodgers this offseason? He said no. We are not trading Aaron Rodgers. So, minds can change. You never know what's going to happen, especially if Aaron Rodgers doesn't change his mind. But that's pretty definitive. That's where the Packers are right now. And again, that's what he said in February. It's what he said. Their stance hasn't changed. The question is whether or not Aaron Rodgers' stance is going to change and if he's going to be more tenable to coming back.
Aaron Rodgers said at the end of last season that his future with the Packers is uncertain, alluding to the Packers' option to move up in last year's draft and select Jordan Love in the very first round. It's wild that it stems back this far. However, that may be the reality of the situation. The Packers have apparently offered Rodgers a contract extension this offseason. So why can't the two sides come to an agreement at this point?
Aaron Rodgers is disgruntled, and you can understand why if you look from his perspective and his point of view. Now, Aaron Rodgers has had no real leverage until recently. The only leverage Aaron Rodgers has, because he got 3 years left on his contract that runs through 2023. He can't just say, trade me, and the Packers say, okay, because if he wants to play football, the contract is in Green Bay. The only leverage he has is to walk away from the game and say, that's it. I'm done. I'm not coming back. And Aaron Rodgers, being who he is, a highly driven, ambitious person, he's not going to walk away for nothing. Could he walk away for jeopardy? And people that are close to Aaron Rodgers that know the quarterback have said that, yeah, that's a plausible idea. And if nothing else, it gives him some leverage, some potential second career after football. He can come to the Packers and say, okay, fine, my dream job is to be the guest, the permanent host of Jeopardy. And we all know how much he loves that game show. It seems wild, I get that, but it is a little bit of leverage. He's not walking away for nothing, because that's the only leverage Aaron Rodgers has. He doesn't have any other leverage other than he's not playing football. So if that's the case, then suddenly it becomes a very different situation where maybe he can force a trade, because at some point, and I asked Brian Gutekunst this tonight also, it's a stalemate right now. Brian Gutekunst says that he's optimistic that Aaron Rodgers will come back. He said that he believes that Aaron Rodgers will return to the team. Aaron Rodgers saying no, he's not. So if this continues, how long can it continue is the question. And Brian Gutekunst didn't want to go there, but at some point there's a line of demarcation where if you're the Packers and he's not going to play for you and he's moving on to other things, whether it's Jeopardy, whatever, you want to get something. You don't want to be left with nothing. At some point that they're going to have to cross that bridge if minds don't change.
Let's move on and take a look at what the Packers did tonight. At number 29, the Packers selected cornerback Eric Stokes out of Georgia. He matches general manager Brian Gutekunst's type for cornerbacks to a T. He's around 6 feet tall, 194 pounds, and get this, he ran a 4.2 540 at his pro day. How much sense did it make to go with Stokes at number 29 tonight?
There was, to me, Olivia, I don't know what you thought of this, but when you look at the roster, I don't think there was one like glaring need, like they have to go here. There was not one dire need that a lot of teams have. But if you were to pick a biggest need, it probably would have been cornerback. One, Jair Alexander, tremendous, but behind him, Kevin King got torched in the AFC Championship game. Bigger than that, he can't stay healthy. He's missed a third of his career games. And he's only on a one-year deal. Behind Kevin King, you've got Shannon Sullivan. They tendered him, command the slot. He's not a difference maker. Really, you've got Jair Alexander, an all-pro cornerback that nobody wants to throw to because quarterbacks know that the other side of the field is open for business. If you're the Packers defense, you want to put a stop to that. The best way to do that is by, especially at 29, the 29th overall pick, drafting 4.25 speed. And that's what Eric Stokes has. 4.25 speed with the 29th overall pick at that position is pretty hard to find. So Eric Stokes, relatively new to the position, only has 4 seasons of cornerback under his belt. He's going to be raw. But you've seen development. You've seen progress with him in his 3 seasons at Georgia. 18 defended passes and no interceptions his first 2 years. Last year, 4 picks. I asked Eric Stokes after tonight's draft what kind of led to the light bulb being clicked on. He said the whole offseason going into his junior year, he focused on playing the football. He came back to Georgia. He felt like a different player. He felt like he was playing the ball like a receiver. So you had that 4.25 closing speed and a guy that can play the ball. There's something to work with there. He's going to be raw, but there's some raw, real tangible, real measurable athleticism that you don't often find late first round. You add him to Jair Alexander and Kevin King, Shannon, that's a deeper cornerback group now, and it's a guy that could develop into a stud because he's got the athleticism there.
The Packers brought back cornerback Kevin King on a 1-year deal this offseason worth $5 million, so they don't have an immediate need at starter for a cornerback. That being said, how likely is it that Stokes can make an immediate impact on this defense?
Yeah, he's been more of a perimeter corner, so it's going to be really interesting to see how Joe Barry kind of envisions who is going to fill that star position, the slot. Is it going to be Shannon Sullivan? He was the slot guy last year. Do they think about putting Jair Alexander in there? Probably not, but you never know, just because of the size, and you want your best perimeter corners on the perimeter. But he's kind of coming into a situation like Rashawn Gary came in a couple of years ago as a first-round pick, where the top of the depth chart, Rashawn Gary was the Smiths. Here it's Jair Alexander and Kevin King. The top of the depth chart's pretty solid. It gives you some patience, some leeway to kind of get your bearings and develop at your own pace. And really it's going to be up to Eric Stokes because if he comes in and develops the right way, it's tough to keep 4.25 speed on the sideline.
Let's go over to Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube right now for some of your questions. We've got lots of you up very late with us tonight, so thank you for joining us. Let's go over to Ron.
Can't sleep. I don't blame you.
Awesome. Ron, let's go over to you on Facebook. Ron says that the Packers front office cannot repeat the same history like they did with Brett Favre. How close is the front office to getting into a Brett Favre-like situation that happened many, many years ago?
Well, our Tom Silverstein wrote his column tonight on this is headed toward a Brett Favre messy divorce. And I wasn't here in 2008, Olivia, but if I was, I would think it would look a lot like this, right? I mean, this is not going well. There's no way that you can look at the situation and say, it's all good here, unless you're the person inside the burning flames that's saying everything's fine. That's kind of who you have to be. So, minds can change maybe, but it sure seems pretty definitive from the quarterback when he says he's not coming back, that he's not coming back. There's not a lot of leeway outside of that. I mean, it's tough to come back from that. So there's a lot of work to do there. No question about it.
Thank you, Ron, for your comment. Let's go over to Matt on Facebook. Matt says, why is a 37-year-old player with 3 years left on his contract needing an extension? He already has an extension. If you look at the remainder of Rodgers' deal, he doesn't have any more guaranteed money. What is Rodgers after? Is he looking for more guaranteed money, or is he looking for something else?
More money, more money. You're the MVP of the league, and look, quarterback contracts are like cars, like new cars. As soon as you drive it off the lot, as soon as the ink's dry, it's outdated because the next guy is just going to leapfrog you. So that deal that he signed in 2018 that made him the richest quarterback in NFL history, Patrick Mahomes very quickly outdated that, and some other guys have outdated that. It gets outdated pretty quickly. So more money, and the Packers, Tom Silverstein confirmed, and ESPN first reported that the Packers have been in contract negotiations. Brian Gutekunst said that this thing's been going on for a good 6 weeks now. This is not new. I don't think they foresaw it coming out like this on draft day. Someone should write a movie about draft day, and this would probably be a plot twist. Even the draft day movie that existed didn't have something like this, right? So, it's a shocking thing. It's not what you expect, but hey, Aaron Rodgers has a flair for the dramatic.
The Netflix documentary is already in the works, people. Let's be real. Thank you, Matt, for your question. Let's take a comment here from Jacob. Jacob says that the Packers needed a wide receiver. The draft is 2 more days. There's several more rounds left in the draft. How likely is it that the Packers can find a receiver on day 2?
Brian Gutekunst reiterated today that a year ago they were looking at receiver. And it's just kind of you look at all the ways that they got here. I remember, Olivia, a year ago, it was day 2. You and I were right here, and we were talking about how stunning it was. They went through 2 days, 3 picks, and drafted a running back, drafted a tight end that was an H-back, that was a fullback, drafted Aaron Rodgers' replacement, didn't draft a receiver. And that was not, according to Brian Gutekunst tonight, not exactly intentional. And here they are. Elijah Moore's on the board. They don't draft him. Not a huge surprise. Elijah Moore's under 5'10". That's, you look at the Ron Wolf scouting tree. That's a standard. They usually try. They like 5'10 and a half, and so Elijah Moore's size might have been an issue, but this is a deep receiving class. Yes, you would think they need to draft a wide receiver. If nothing else, like give Aaron Rodgers an olive branch. Like hey. Not first round, but here's a new toy. Go throw the ball to this guy. Come back. You would think that would be in the cards.
Aaron Rodgers aside, the Packers absolutely need to draft a wide receiver in this year's draft. They have so many players, including Davante Adams, regardless of whether or not he signs an extension, which the Packers should sign Davante Adams to an extension next season after he becomes an unrestricted free agent. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Equanimeous St. Brown, and Devin Funchess all become unrestricted free agents in 2022. Allen Lazard becomes a restricted free agent in 2022. The Packers need to start adding some depth to that room in some capacity. They can still do it in this year's draft. Thank you so much, Jacob, for your comment. We appreciate it. Let's go over to Levi, our friend Levi on Facebook. Levi asks, why didn't the Packers draft defensive tackle Christian Barmore at number 29? He thought that the depth along the defensive line group in this year's draft was quite thin. Barmore was available to the Packers at number 29. However, they opted for Stokes. Why did they pass on Barmore, considering defensive line could be a need for them this year?
It is, but 4.25 speed at corner, which is a premium position, more important position than defensive line. Tough to say no to. It's a pretty good pick. It's tough to turn your back on 4.25 speed at corner. So, Christian Barmore, very thin defensive line class. He was the top of that. He was available. Even if you look at Christian Barmore, though, any other year, he's not really your crown jewel of the position. It was in a lot of ways a byproduct of how thin this class was. Not to say he's a bad player by any means, but he had a lot of uneven play up and down at Alabama. When he's on, he looks real good, but he's not always on. So I don't look at Christian Barmore as a can't miss prospect. Neither is Eric Stokes, but 4.25 speed at corner. It kind of explains itself. It's tough to pass that up.
Thank you, Levi, for your question. Let's go over to Dan on Facebook. Dan wants to know if Eric Stokes has any kick or punt return ability. With running back Tyler Ervin departing this offseason in free agency, where are the Packers going to find their spark in the return game?
You're going to have to help me with this, Olivia. I can't remember. There's been a lot of things on my mind tonight. Was Brian Gutekunst asked that?
He was not asked that.
I haven't
read anything about Stokes and his return abilities.
I haven't either. But my first thought is like 4.25 speed, just getting the ball, right? But you never know. That's a good question. That's a very good question. We should definitely ask that question. Kudos to you for that question. I wish I had a better answer for you. My head's been in the Aaron Rodgers stuff. That's a very fair question, though.
It's a very fair question, and it's a question that we can address in the coming days too. With Gutekunst.
We'll get back to you. Stay tuned.
Thank you, Dan, for your question. Let's take this one here from Andrew. Andrew says regarding the Aaron Rodgers situation, he'll wait till he hears from Rodgers himself. When, Ryan, are we going to hear from Aaron Rodgers about this situation?
It's going to be at the Kentucky Derby on Saturday. Look, Aaron Rodgers is the most calculated, careful, meticulous, deliberate guy he does. There are no accidents in Aaron Rodgers' world. If this wasn't, you kind of did. Like, silence is deafening. You kind of did hear from Aaron Rodgers tonight, because if this was a total mistake, you would have heard from Aaron Rodgers. He's got an Instagram. He's got a Twitter account. You would have heard something. You didn't. So that's kind of your answer.
Thank you, Andrew, for your question, and thank all of you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. We will be back tomorrow, day 2 of the NFL draft, to continue to have this conversation about Rodgers and, of course, about the Packers' newest members. Make sure you're checking out all of our draft coverage over on PackersNews.com. For Ryan Wood, I'm Olivia Reiner. We will see you next time.